Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. Today I'm gonna be doing my pregnancy and birth experience. I'm gonna do a little get ready with me story time about my pregnancy experience and my birth experience. So I'm gonna be covering all the topics. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys give a thumbs up. Obviously, comment down some video suggestions if you guys enjoy my content and would like to see more. So I found out I was pregnant January 19th, 2023. There was a lot of things going on in my life and my husband's life at that point. And it was just a really hard time for us at the beginning of 2023. We had just had a miscarriage on Christmas, so literally like 2 weeks before I found out I was pregnant again. And we had actually scheduled an appointment with the fertility doctor to kind of figure out why I was having back-to-back miscarriages, because nobody could really tell me why. So that was already scheduled for, I want to say, like January 29th. There was a lot of things that had went down on the 19th, and later on that day I was hanging out with my cousin and my friend, and I was like joking with them, and I was like, oh, what if I found out I was pregnant today and it happened after all of the stuff that happened today and this pregnancy actually sticks? It was a joke. I was not actually anticipating on taking a pregnancy test. I was expecting to get my period, and that's all I could think of. But when I went to leave, my friend was like, oh, just for kicks and giggles, you should get a pregnancy test just to see. And I was like, okay. So I stopped at the Family Dollar where I was at and picked up like a $4 test, went home, took the test. I literally walked out of the bathroom for 2 seconds, walked back in, and it was already positive. It was already positive. So of course I'm freaking out. I'm telling my husband and everything like that. When we had the appointment for us to see like a fertility specialist, which was just my OBGYN, we had our first prenatal appointment. And he was basically like, okay, well, we're gonna just see how this pregnancy goes. If you have another miscarriage, then we're gonna do a full miscarriage checkup, full miscarriage workup. That way we can try and figure out why you keep having the continuous miscarriages. I found out I was pregnant really early. I was like 4 weeks pregnant. So I ended up getting past, the 6-week mark, which with my last few pregnancies, that was like one of like the hardest points, was getting past the 6-week mark. And we were not having a lot of success with that. So I got past my 6-week mark. I got really excited for it. And then at about 8 weeks, which is before I had my first official, I had an ultrasound at 6 weeks. There was a heartbeat. I want to say she had 117 beats per minute. She had a heartbeat, but then at 8 weeks, I woke up, I had started spotting. So typical me, first instinct, go to the hospital. I go to the hospital. They admitted me, they did blood work, they did an ultrasound. Everything came back okay, but they had found a small subchorionic hemorrhage is what it's called. I don't know the full details. I know it has to do with like chorion membranes or something like that. I'll post a screenshot of what the actual symptoms of subchorionic hemorrhages are. That way you guys can see for yourself, because I don't really honestly know the exact terminology. Of course, I'm freaking out, thanking God and everything, because her heart rate went up from the last ultrasound, which was 2 weeks prior. Turns out everything's okay. And then I got another ultrasound at 10 weeks, which is also the same appointment that I got my blood drawn to do the early gender testing. I wanted to say it was by this company called Myriad. I'll post a screenshot. I did the test at 10 weeks, found out my results at 11 weeks. I thought it was gonna be a boy because I was not craving sweets. I was craving like hot Cheetos, spicy stuff, salty stuff, so I thought it was gonna be a boy, but my husband thought it was gonna be a girl. So yeah, we find out that we're having a little baby girl. I'm happy because I really truly thought that I was gonna end up getting stuck with only boys, because on my dad's side, I'm the only girl. So I ended up getting past all of that, and my anxiety wasn't, as high anymore. But then I want to say I was 16, maybe 18 weeks pregnant, and I started spotting again. I was just gonna wait a day, see if it went away, but I was like, never mind, because that'll be my luck. I'll think everything's fine, and then this is the moment that nothing's fine. I waited all day, and then me and my husband went to the hospital. They, did a pelvic exam so they could see if there was like active bleeds. There wasn't, which it wasn't like heavy spotting, it was just like light spotting, so I wasn't like too freaked out. They did that, and then they did an ultrasound, which I was not able to see the screen, but my husband was able to see the screen because of where he was sitting. He was watching them do the ultrasound, and as soon as they started doing the ultrasound, she's literally moving, and I felt her at the same time. So at that point, my spotting was being caused by this thing called placenta previa. And that one is just basically where it covers some of your cervix. There's a couple different ones, but for mine specifically, it was where it was covering some of my cervix. And when that happens, it poses a threat when it comes to delivery time. So like, you'll more than likely have to have an emergency C-section. But yeah, so I just took the bad news. I mean, it wasn't super bad. The baby was okay. They asked me to schedule a follow-up appointment with my OBGYN, and I did. So they brought us in for another ultrasound, and then come to find out, I didn't have placenta previa, I had marginal previa, which is completely different. For marginal previa, that just is when the placenta is on the edge of the cervix, but it's not covering the cervix. And most of the time with marginal previa, it fixes itself and it moves back to where it's supposed to be. That's what happened with me. I think within like literally like 2-3 weeks, they brought me in for another ultrasound just to check on it. And sure enough, it is gone. For the most part, everything else was good. But by the time I got to like August time frame, I'm hitting like 33 weeks. 34 weeks, we had an ultrasound. My baby was measuring 36 weeks. At 34 weeks, measuring about 5.6 pounds already. They're like, oh, ultrasounds aren't always accurate, which I know is true. My doctors weren't really like tripping over it. But they scheduled me for another ultrasound for when I was 36 weeks. So two weeks later, at that ultrasound, she was weighing 7.8 pounds or something like that, 7 point something pounds, and measuring 38 weeks. At this point, I've already gained almost like 60 pounds. The day that I went into labor, I was 237 pounds. I've lost like 40 pounds since, but I gained a lot of weight because of how big she was, and then because of obviously pregnancy weight gain. So I was really heavy. I had this thing where when they're sitting super low in your pelvic, it kind of like makes your pelvis hurt a lot. And like walking was really hard for me sometimes. Like I was crying getting out of bed because of how bad it hurt. But because she was just so big and they weren't caring about it, I'm like, whatever, my doctor's obviously gonna know more than I do. I didn't go to medical school. This is my first pregnancy. I don't know what I'm talking about. But the whole time I'm going, there's no way that she's under what they're saying she is on the ultrasound because of how much weight I'm carrying because of her. I obviously had thoughts in my head that she was bigger than what they were saying. At that point, once I hit 36 weeks, my appointments became every week. So I went back for an appointment the next week for my 37-week checkup. That was September 13th of 2023. I go in, I do my urine sample, they do my blood pressure, whatever. And as soon as I come out of the bathroom from doing my urine sample, I'm sitting in the room, my door is open. I see the doctor that I'm supposed to be seeing for that appointment walk past the door, and as she's walking past, she's telling one of the nurses, we're gonna send her to get induced, go ahead and call triage. Her blood pressure is like through the roof. She walks in, she's like, oh, you're having a baby today. And I just start bawling because I kid you not, that same day I typed up a whole list at work before my appointment of all the reasons why they needed to induce me because I was dying at that point. Not literally, obviously, but I was in so much pain. I couldn't handle it. Like, I'm already small as is. I'm only 5'1". So for me to be enduring all that pain, it was not easy. Plus I was working full-time still at that point. I didn't go into maternity leave until I got induced. So yeah, they sent me to get induced. I got to the hospital into triage and hooked up at 3 p.m. And I swear to God, by the time they hooked me up to the monitors, I was already having contractions. I was going into labor. So they sent me to the hospital to get induced because of my blood pressure being high. Like it was 150 over something, like it was high. And when I got there, they did labs or whatever, and it came back positive for hypertension. So they admitted me. I was 37 weeks and 4 days to be exact. Yeah, so I had already been going into labor already at the same moment that I was being like admitted to be induced. So that was crazy. I finally got back to like my labor delivery room, I want to say at 7 o'clock that night. They started me on Pitocin at like 9:30, 9:40, and then I wasn't making any progress after that within like an hour. They went ahead and inserted a Foley catheter, which is like a balloon catheter. They stick it in your cervix without pain, and it helps open up your cervix, and it's supposed to open you up to about 5 centimeters. So they gave me that at like 10 o'clock. By 2 o'clock in the morning, it came out. So I was already at 5 centimeters at that point. So they were just occasionally checking on me. There was a couple times throughout the night that their systems kept shutting down. So like all my nurses had to be in the room, just making sure that I was okay, because they couldn't like listen to the baby's heartbeat while they're doing everything else. So I got to 5 centimeters at 2 a.m., 5:30 a.m., my doctor broke my water. I was already pushing through all the contractions and everything. I probably could have waited a little longer, but I didn't want to be one of those people who got screwed out of getting their epidural because they waited until the last minute. So by 5 centimeters, 6 centimeters, I just went ahead and opted in and got the epidural because he was on my floor at that point doing one for someone else at that already. After I got the epidural, I felt perfect. Like I felt amazing. So I ended up going to sleep. Let's put it this way. I made it through the whole day, the whole next day of September 14th, barely making any progression. I was in a lot of pain. I wasn't feeling the contractions. Like I felt the pressure, but not the pain from the contractions. But I was feeling pressure like down there. So I kept thinking she was coming. And every time they checked, I was only like 7 centimeters. I made it to about 7 o'clock that night. They came in, I was only 9 centimeters, and my doctor had changed at that point, so I had a different doctor who was going to be delivering, and she's like, okay, we're going to check again in 2 hours. If in 2 hours you haven't made any progression because you're progressing horribly at this point, and we're pushing 24 hours, then we're probably going to have to send you in for a C-section. So 2 hours went by, 9 o'clock rolls around, 2 hours later, come in, I'm still at 9 centimeters. So they started prepping me for a C-section, because at that point, I'm already in labor for 24 hours, no progression. Or there's progression, but not as good as it needs to be. So we did the C-section. That was very frightening. After I had my C-section, they brought us to the recovery room for an hour because it's mandatory. I was doing good. They put like blood pressure cuffs on your legs to help prevent blood clotting, just because you literally went through a major surgery. When I got to my maternity room, my nurse told me I couldn't get the blood pressure cuffs off until 6 in the morning, and then I couldn't start trying to walk after my surgery until 9 in the morning. And the medicine they gave me after my C-section, it was making me itch so bad that like I couldn't handle it. I was like, I need to get up, I need to walk, my legs are itchy, I need these things off. So by 3 in the morning, they agreed to take them off, my legs were fine. And then by 6 in the morning, I was already up and walking. Altogether, including the day I got induced, we were there for like 3-4 days. I will say my C-section recovery was like super hard. Nobody really told me like what to expect when you're trying to go home and like clean yourself, shower without, getting it infected, how you're supposed to be able to sleep with, all the pain from the C-section. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if this is the same for everybody, but for me, I personally felt that my organs weren't in the right place. So I couldn't actually sleep on my side comfortably for a good 4 or 5 weeks. And then at 5-6 weeks is when I started being able to sleep on my stomach again. Being a woman is very empowering, and the fact that our bodies are literally created and designed to carry a human being and create a human being blows my mind. I obviously wouldn't trade going through pregnancy, and I obviously want more kids, so I'm gonna go through pregnancy again. I just know now what steps to take to make my pregnancy not be like miserable or anything like that. And then obviously, because I had a C-section for my first pregnancy, I'm probably going to end up having another one. It'll just be more planned this time. That was my pregnancy and birth experience story. But if you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you guys are interested, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I am trying to come up with more ideas of what to film and what to post. If you have any ideas, go ahead and comment below. And yeah, I think that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time.